All right, we're going to take a look at the end of the civil rights movement here, at least the first part, and the shift from nonviolence to more of an assertive black power mentality. Okay, and we're going to kind of see which one's better, which one's more productive. Okay, so let's go. Now, in the North, okay, by about 1965, civil rights groups are starting to drift apart. I mean, before this, you've had Martin Luther King Jr., solidly nonviolent, peaceful protests, but now they're starting to kind of pull apart. Okay, now we've only been looking at the South. I mean, the South is where you have the legal segregation, you have the lynchings, you have most of the problems as far as the bigger problems going on in the South. But the North is facing problems of its own. Okay, now there's riots, Detroit, L.A., Harlem, and New York. A lot of the segregation there and the racism, it's pretty bad in the North as it is in the South. Okay, you know, just because they don't have Jim Crow laws doesn't mean they don't have issues. Okay, now we're going to look at two types of segregation. All right, and I want you to think about these because they seem kind of difficult at first, but just think about them. Okay, de jure segregation. De jure, think of jury, it means by law. Okay, you have segregation by law. This is what they have in the South. Okay, you know, colored, white. You know, blacks only, whites only. Now, de facto segregation, it just means by custom, by tradition. Okay, it's just the way it is. This is fact. Okay. This is what we have in the North, all right? And I mean, we have this today, and I'll talk about this in a second, okay? And when you think about which one is harder to fight, okay, you can pass laws to get rid of segregation by law, but you can't really do anything for tradition, okay? Let's take a look at this, okay? What's this goofy-looking salamander here, all right? That's the Beloit Turner School District, all right? You think about why certain areas are carved out. Wait, Mr. Flynn, the hood. Yeah, it's not part of Turner District. Even though a couple blocks away it might be, it's not. Okay, and you know, in our community here, even we have this de facto segregation. Whites live in certain areas. Blacks live in certain areas. Mexicans live in certain areas. You go to Turner, it's even more defined. Okay, it's very difficult to get rid of de facto segregation, okay, because this is the way it is, okay, and our city is a perfect example of this, all right. So you have major riots going on, millions and billions of dollars in damages, people killed, you know, troops brought in, and you think about, does a picture like this hurt or help the civil rights movement? You have blacks looting a store, this guy here with a loaded rifle. This is the type of stuff that Martin Luther King Jr. said, oh, no, what are you doing, all right? I mean, we're working so hard, and then something like this happens, and then this gets put on the front page of the Birmingham, Alabama newspaper. This is just going to make people even more scared of black people and even more, you know, entrenched in their ways. And really, this hurts the movement. And we'll kind of look at this here in a second. All right. So, grassroots movements. We looked at this yesterday. They start at the bottom. They work their way up. Okay. This is why the civil rights movement has been successful. Okay. And how do they get successful? You get change at the top. All right. When you can get enough people at the bottom to actually make a difference and change the top, there you go. You've done something good. All right. And we're going to see our next president, John F. Kennedy, here, and his stance on civil rights. So Kennedy's a Democrat. Democrats are traditionally in the South since Civil War times. Okay, and JFK has to be careful not to break from his party, even though he has certain beliefs. You got to play the company line. You got to stay with your party. So he's got to be kind of careful. Okay, and one of the issues that we're going to look at tomorrow is this idea of affirmative action. All right, and I want you to think of this question, and we're going to talk about this a lot. Should race be used when figuring out if you should hire somebody or admit them into college? Should race be a factor? Okay? Think about that, because we're going to talk about it a lot, all right, tomorrow. Okay? So Kennedy is going to issue this fancy executive order, but what it does is it says that you need to take affirmative action. Okay? You need to do something positive, affirmative action, okay, to make sure that when you're hiring and employing people, it's free of racial biases. Okay? And this is going to get applied to education and other jobs. All right? And the big question that's still today, just went to the Supreme Court recently, is this a good thing? Should companies, should colleges use race as a factor, okay, to when you're going to get hired, when you're going to get into college, when you're going to get a scholarship? And just think about that, all right, because we're going to come to that tomorrow. Be ready, okay? So one of the big issues, we looked at the Freedom Riders. Now, Kennedy, you have a student, and a former military veteran, James Meredith. He's admitted to the University of Mississippi. He's black. He's denied by the governor, and Kennedy's going to order federal marshals to make sure he can get registered. Okay, and they have riots on campus, hundreds of arrests, a couple people dead. So we've seen this from Brown versus Board. Okay, we're going to have to fight about it. Little Rock 9, we're going to have to fight about it. High school. So we got elementary school, high school, college. Okay, education is where the power is at. All right, I mean, this is why whites, the people in power, don't want the people not in power to get educated, because when you get educated, you get power, and when you get power, you take it away from someone who has power. Okay, so this is the next step. All right. Now, Kennedy is a supporter of the Civil Rights Act in 1964, but Kennedy doesn't live to 1964. He's assassinated in 1963, and a lot of the stuff he doesn't get to see come happen. Okay, here's James Meredith being escorted, federal troops. I don't think you want to mess with these guys. They look pretty mean, after riots, just to get them to register for college. Okay, now, the next guy we're looking at is Malcolm X. Now, he's very different from what we've been looking at with nonviolence. Just take a look at this quote. If you think we are here to tell you to love the white man, you have come to the wrong place. Very different from Martin Luther King Jr. Okay. Now, he's born Malcolm Little in Nebraska, has a troubled childhood. His dad gets killed early by some white racists. Mom's kind of unstable. He gets bumped around from foster home to foster home. Ends up out in Harlem, gets selling drugs and dope, goes to jail, has a religious experience, and converts to Islam, and changes his last name to X. Okay? He says Little is his slave name, and we're going to talk about that. I'll show you a little video tomorrow. Okay? So, Malcolm X. Now, X claims that whites are the cause of blacks' problems. Okay? Armed self-defense by any means necessary. If someone puts their hands on you, you jack them. Okay? If someone pulls a gun on you, you pull a gun on them. Armed self-defense by whatever you need to do. All right? If they're spraying you with a hose, you do something about it. If that dog comes out barking at you, you jack that dog in the head. Okay? Do what you got to do to survive. Okay? He's all about black nationalism, separation, not integration. He says, leave us alone. Man, you whites are the problem. Okay, whites are the devil. We don't want to be involved with you. Don't mess with us. We won't mess with you. Just let us be. Okay? Now, when you think about whose message you think is going to work better, and we'll talk about this in class a little bit. Okay, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King Jr. They have very different approaches. Okay, like complete opposite approaches. All right, and we'll talk about this. All right, you look at some of these quotes. Be peaceful, courteous, obey the laws, respect everyone, but if someone puts his hands on you, you send him to the cemetery. Very different from, only love can conquer hate and only light can conquer darkness that we've seen with Martin Luther King Jr. Very, very different. Okay, we'll watch that tomorrow. Okay, some more quotes we'll talk about. We'll look at these tomorrow in class. Okay, now you see Malcolm X goes on this religious pilgrimage to Mecca, changes his outlook on life, comes back and starts preaching to all races. You see him here with Dr. King, promotes integration, says, whites can help the problem. We need to work together, stick together, and starts to be more on the same page with Dr. King. Now, what happens is his old group, okay, the black Muslim group, very extreme, very anti-white, very, anti-integration. They don't like his new ways of thinking, and he actually gets murdered by 3 black members of his old group, okay? So he's actually killed by his old group, which is kind of crazy. I mean, most people think, oh, it's white racist killed. No. This is killed by his own people. All right. So we will come and look at this tomorrow. Okay. We'll finish up the second half here. After Kennedy gets assassinated, we'll take a look at the video, and we will finish up the civil rights movement and be on our way. All right. See you guys. Peace out.